morning, VC. Merry Christmas. It's Boxing Day here in New Zealand, and we've had two rather hot days leading up to Christmas. Today is pretty gloomy. It's early morning, just got out of bed. Although the summer drought, as far as rain concerned, hasn't particularly broken, although we are expecting rain today, my vinyl drought has broken, fortunately. Yeah, from the end of September, early October, things slowed down big time work-wise, so funds for buying vinyl dried up, and so there hadn't been a lot coming in, but things have picked up. The Christmas rush picked up, things picked up for that, and I cashed in my points at my wholesalers again, which I do. We get bonus points for buying so much product, so got a nice little bonus out of them for buying records, although a lot of those records haven't arrived yet. I've got those in the mail, and still some to order. And I had a birthday last week, so I got some vinyl for that from my lovely wife. She asked me what I wanted, and I was humming and hawing about some stuff, but I'll tell you that story in a minute. Anyway, let's start with what's playing in the background. In the past, I have shown albums from a New Zealand label called Sarang Bang Records, and the guy that runs that is a guy called Gianmarco Liguri, I think his name is. Not actually written on here, is it? Anyway, he is also, there's not a lot of records out on his label, but they've been around for quite a while, vinyl-wise. There is half a dozen or more releases, of which I've got about 4 of them. Maybe it's about, a bit more. Plus there's a bunch of CDs. And he's been in a band called Salon Kingsador. And I knew nothing about them, to be honest, actually. And Salon Kingsador had put out about 3 or 4 CDs since the early mid-2000s, I think. Anyway, he has put his first Kingsador out on vinyl, and what they did was, it's a limited edition of 100, that's what's playing in the background right now, a limited edition of 100 records, each with handmade covers, and each cover is different. And what he did was he had all 100 on display at an art gallery up in Auckland before he put them out to be sold. He was selling them through New Zealand's Trade Me site, which is a New Zealand version of eBay, and also he has them on his Facebook, his Bandcamp page. So managed to pick up a copy before they all disappeared. This is my cover here. So yeah, they were all folded up. I mean, it's got a bit of almost a tatty look to it around the edges. The actual piece in the middle, which is glued on, is done by that process. I can't remember the name of it, but it's called, they do for making blueprints, the ink for plans. So they've used a similar process there, apparently. So mine's got that kind of smoky effect. Also on the back, he's glued a little piece out of, this is really cool, it's actually, I think it's out of the Penguin Guide to Classical Music, and this page reviews 3 of Ed Varis's releases, and that was quite appropriate because I really love Edgar Varis. I mean, for me, he's one of the most awesome 20th century composers ever, and he has huge influence on modern music and the avant-garde musique concrete, I think they call it. And he also had a massive influence on Frank Zappa, and Frank Zappa's music would have been considerably different if it wasn't for Edgar Varis. Edgar died in 1965, just before Frank Zappa really started getting into his putting out records. But I remember reading Frank's biography, and he had communications with Edgar before he died. So that's pretty cool. Yesterday, of course, Christmas Day, and my lovely wife bought me this. So really cool. This is the archive recording series, I think, isn't it? I thought it was. It hasn't got the little symbol on it. Although it is, I'm pretty sure it is. All the CDs I have of this series so far, you know, all the Live at Massey Halls and Live at Fillmore East and stuff like that, they've been really fantastic recordings. So yeah, and this is the same. But yeah, it usually has that little symbol down in the corner, but this one doesn't have that. So that was my one piece of vinyl I got for Christmas, amongst other items of clothing and hot chocolates and stuff like that. Latest arrival in the mail is this interesting artifact. Now this is a sort of it's a kind of a self-release thing, I believe. This is by a New Zealand band called Diana Tribute, and to be honest, I can't tell you the name of the record because, oh yes it is, it's Red Biennial, that's the one. It's the title of one of the tracks. It's a bit of a grotesque cover. This is just a slip of cardboard with a flap on it. And like I say, this is kind of, well, it says it's released on Freezing Works record. Oh yeah, there's the name of the album there, yeah, Red Biennial. This is kind of industrial, electronic kind of weird music, and it's really cool. I actually really like it. What I didn't realise, and I might not have bought it if I had have realised, is that it's actually a what we call a lathe cut. Now this is not actually vinyl, this is actually what's called polycarbonate, a polycarbonate lathe cut. Now we have a little backyard enterprise down south of here, actually in the South Island, in a place called Geraldine, and there's a fella called Peter King, and so a lot of people get their 7 inches and LPs cut by this lathe cut that he has in his garage, and he's been doing it for many years. My understanding of lathe cuts is that they usually sound pretty crappy, and also they don't stand up to being played a lot, and so I've kind of avoided them. And there is a lot of really underground, obscure, bizarre kind of music, like the Pseudo Arcana label, which I have a couple of vinyl records I managed to pick up by Anthony Milton and a couple of other artists on that label who mostly stuff is in a lathe cut, and they do them in very limited editions. This is only a limited edition of 50, run of 50. This one sounds really, really good. Yes, there is a bit of surface noise on the lathe cut, but it actually sounds really good. Anthony Milton actually commented on my Facebook post when I posted that on the New Zealand Vinyl Lovers group that he had upgraded his gear a few years back, and he said they do sound a lot better than they had in the past. But that being said, yeah, Chris had mentioned recently on his show that he tries not to buy them if he can help it, because he said in the past they have sounded pretty crappy. And like I say, the other concern I have is the fact that they don't last very long. On Saturday, just before Christmas, I went to a big gig at the darkroom, you know, which is my regular haunt for seeing great New Zealand local bands, and they had 25 bands on. They had 20-minute sets each. They had 2 stages set up, and they just quit alternating between the stages as the band was set up while the other was playing, and they did 20 minutes each. And it was a great night, and I saw a lot of good bands, and some I hadn't seen before, which I was really impressed with, and some I'd seen before that I got their records that I really liked, and then some that I'd never even heard of that really impressed me. Anyway, the guy that Dave, who owns Galaxy Records, and the shop's basically attached to the same building, it's part of the same building, he quite often comes down to these gigs and opens the shop up. So I was browsing through his New Zealand music collection, and I saw this, and I've been meaning to pick it up for a while actually, because I actually think I used to have a copy of this. Girls was a 5-piece band led by Kim Willoughby, who went on to bigger things in the New Zealand music scene. It's a 6-track mini album at 33. To be honest, I think it was one I didn't play, and I didn't recognise most of the songs apart from the Out of Bounds single which was released, which is quite a cool song. Yeah, nice wee album that, or mini album. And then, as I said before, my birthday last week. Now, again from Galaxy Records, David posted some new arrivals up on his Facebook page, and someone else had posted them on our vinyl group. And this was one of them, and my wife had been asking me, what do I want for my birthday? Have you got any specific records? I said, yes, I have heaps of them, but I don't know whether they'll be available locally, or whether we'll have to get them in from through the internet. But as soon as these come up, and I said, look, if you're in town, go and see if they're still there. And thank God, there's two of them. So I got this one, Builder's second album, Conch 3 from 1983, I think, somewhere around there. It's got his big hit, big hit Alligator on it. Yeah, cool, it's a good album. And also, she picked me this one here up, Dada Ma. This is not a dream. This is not a dream from, I don't know, the early 90s. This was interesting for a lot of people in the group, and a few people expressed their interest in wanting to swoop in and grab it, but fortunately I beat them to it. It's reasonably rare, not pricey wise. I paid sort of the max, close to the max, well, my wife paid close to the maximum price that I like to pay for second-hand records. Anyway, Dada Ma is a band led by a man called Roy Montgomery, who I've mentioned before, and Roy was in the very first band that released on Flying Nun, the Pin group. It released the very first single back in 1981. Next up is this one I picked up via their Bandcamp. It's from Gate. I've showed a couple of Gate records in the past. Gate is Michael Morley, who's 1/3 of the Dead Sea. Highway Ghosts, this is an ambient record. It's actually, excuse me, it's really kind of Brian Eno ambient, so quite interesting. Also in the mail from their Bandcamp site is this Black Minalaushi. This is, I think, a limited edition of 100, I believe. Get Down is the name of the album. This is their second record. This is soulful punk, funky indie pop, with a little taste of Beach Boys actually, in the vocal harmonies. So yeah, really like this record, really good. One that I picked up in the middle of my vinyl drought, about the only record I managed to score, was this one, which is newish, new release. Again, picked up through a Bandcamp page. The Great North, Golden Age. This is their, I believe, their third album, but their first on vinyl. Yeah, again, great indie pop. Recorded, I think it may have been recorded here, I'm not sure, but they're actually based in the UK, the band itself, but they are New Zealanders. Reminds me a lot of the Mutton Birds, which is a well-known New Zealand band led by Don McGlashan, and also the guy actually sounds a bit like Don McGlashan in places. Three more to go. This one here, I went to a gig at the start of December, and I'd managed to budget some money for this because I knew it was coming. There were two records supposed to be at this gig from two of the bands that I really liked that were playing. It was called the Great Southern Doom Fest, held at one of the local hotels, and there were 10 bands on, but there were 3 in particular that I wanted to see. Bloodnut was one that I don't have any music of because they only released on CD. Triumphs is a band from Dunedin, who are sort of heavy post-rock, verging on heavy metal instrumental, great band. They got a new album that was due out. Unfortunately, I spoke to the guitarist and there was a big hold up from the record pressing plant due to a major breakdown or something at the plant, so we're not sure when that's arriving. And the other band was Arc of Ascent, their latest album, Realms of the Metaphysical. I actually kind of know the guy that is in the band, Craig. He's on our Facebook page, and we're Facebook friends, and so I got to speak to him and chat to him and had a really good chat with him, and this is probably the strongest album they've put out yet. I'm really impressed with it. So I picked that up that night, which which was great, but disappointed that I didn't get the Triumph one yet, so I have to wait for that to arrive. And actually, on the way to the gig, I went to the warehouse, just filling in, because I got into town a little bit earlier, and I filled in 10-15 minutes, and I managed to find a copy of this, a reissue. I was quite impressed, and it was a good price. Actually picked up reasonably cheap. City Baby Attacked by Rats. This is, I think, their first album from the early 80s. I was really big on GBH back in the days. I really liked them. This is great album. Oh, it's a reissue on Let Them Eat vinyl. So I was a wee bit suspect about who that was, because there's some pretty dodgy labels around doing reissues, but turned out that that's actually the parent label of the Back in Black reissue. So I thought, oh well, that's cool. And I also picked up this one that had there on the same label, Leather Bristles and Acne. This is actually the better of the two albums. I really like this one. On red vinyl, and the other one's actually on clear vinyl. So that's cool. So actually a reasonable haul over the last month. So as I said, the drought is broken, and I've got quite a lot more ordered in the mail, plus more that I need to order with the funds I have available from my wholesalers, which is really cool. So work's looking good for the new year, so hopefully there's some new releases coming up. One of the bands I saw on Saturday night called the Salad Boys, who I have their first album. I've got a new record coming out early in the new year, and all the songs they played that night were off a new record, and they were awesome. Really awesome indie pop with some fantastic bass line melodies, which I was really impressed with. Had a chat to the singer, and he said, yeah, that's all on a new album, and he said they're playing a gig on the 18th of January, I think he said, for the album release, so I might have to get along to that. Anyway, I'm probably running out of time, so I better move on. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and happy vinyl hunting. Cheers.